During Warcraft's 20th anniversary patch, players will be able to return to the Blackrock Depths in a fully revamped raid. The story behind this raid is that we are working with the Bronze Dragonflight and the current leader of the Dark Iron Dwarves, Moira Tharazan, to go back in time. During the raid, Moira is reflecting on all of the past mistakes of the Dark Iron clan, and trust me, there's a lot of them. While we, the players, will probably be reflecting on all of the cool new loot we can grab. So let's delve right back into the Blackrock Depths and cover the stories of the raid's most iconic bosses. One of the first foes you'll run into when entering the raid, other than all the dwarves, is Lord Rockor. The story behind Lord Rockor was that he was originally from the heart of the Blackrock Mountain, the Molten core, but he quickly learned that his fellow elementals were selfish, scheming, chaotic balls of fire, always looking to backstab another one of their fiery kind. In fact, another boss in the Blackrock Depths, Lord Incendius, has a similar story because he was the protege to Baron Geddon. But as Lord Incendius' power grew, Baron Geddon banished him to the Blackrock Depths out of fear of him usurping control. So suffice to say, there's a lot of drama going on in the Molten Core. It's like a reality TV show in there, it's so dramatic. And Lord Rockor hated this so much that he put everything on the line for a chance at freedom. He purposefully angered Ragnaros the Fire Lord so he could be banished from the Molten Core. Hey, Ragnaros. Did somebody say Thunder Fury plus a Blade of the Wind seat? Lord Rockor's risky play worked out, and now he's forced to patrol the Blackrock Depths in isolation, but I don't think he minds. As players continue through the Blackrock Depths, they'll enter the Dark Iron Highway, which is absolutely covered in dwarves, but at the very end there's the next boss, Baelgar. Now, Baelgar's lore is pretty simple. He's just an elemental, but what makes him interesting is what is behind him. Behind these sealed doors is a mystery. Only the Fire Lord himself and the Dark Iron clan's highest-ranking members know what lies behind it. It could be anything: a treasure room, a movie theater, a Pilates studio, or a jacuzzi lounge. Even after 20 years, there are still hidden areas of the Blackrock Depths that have yet to be explored. But players can explore other depths of the city as we travel through the raid. Here they'll find the twisted manufactory of the mad scientist Golem Lord Argomac. This ingenious and perhaps slightly insane Dark Iron Dwarf has had a lifelong obsession with immortality and has crafted various golems in his image. It is said that the Golem Lord has begun to dabble in dark powers so that if he's ever killed, his spirit will be transported into one of these monolithic creations.
Hello!
And speaking of dark magic, all around the depths you'll find members of the Twilight's Hammer cult. This is a cult of old god worshippers who are visiting the city because Ragnaros himself is enslaved by the old gods. So the Dark Iron Dwarves and the Cultists share a similar love for their fiery overlord.
Brilliant! Excellent!
There are particularly insidious cultists as well, like High Interrogator Gersten and Pyromancer Lorgrain, who are not only dangerous foes, but more importantly, are mini-bosses that have a chance to drop some fat loot. But also, yeah, I guess dispatching evil-doing cultists, that's a good thing to do, I guess. And speaking of mini-bosses, we have one of my favorite foes found within the depths. Phineas Darkvire is the chief architect of Shadowforge City. Yes, he is the genius behind building this entire dungeon. Or was he? Well, no, he wasn't. He actually presented plans that were originally made by his predecessor, Fran Clorn Forgeright. And Fran Clorn was so upset by this that in Classic WoW, he appears as a ghost and has players slay Phineas Darkvire to take back his famed hammer, Ironfell, and to reclaim his credit that he rightfully deserves.
Sounds fine. Excellent! That's the worst
iron dwarves from every crevice in the mountain congregate to the grim guzzler to partake in the quintessential dwarven activities: drinking, partying, and sometimes brawling. Bosses like Houndmaster Grebmar wander in here from time to time, treating his hounds to the best ale in the mountain's infamous dive bar. But even for the dwarves, these nightly celebrations can get a bit too out of hand, which is why the owner of the bar, Plugger Spazring, has built Phalanx the Golem, another mini-boss in the raid who serves as the bar's bouncer and deals with patrons who have gotten a bit too rambunctious. But things aren't all fun and games for the Dark Iron. In fact, it's quite the opposite, as they amass their forces to bring destruction to the lands around them, under the command of the Fire Lord and his servants. A boss that lords over the dwarves is Ambassador Flamelash. Flamelash is a creature known as a Flame Waker, an elemental being made of flesh and blood and servant to the Fire Lord. At first, Flamelash despised the Dark Iron dwarves. They're loud, they party too hard, and just can be kind of annoying. But Ambassador Flamelash soon learned about their penchant for destruction and developed a respect for his short, bearded allies. And Dark Iron dwarves aren't shy of destruction. In fact, it's a huge part of their history. No one knows that better than General Angerforge. General Angerforge is an expert in military tactics and studied the history of the Dark Iron's involvement in the War of the Three Hammers. This is a civil war that was around 271 years ago, where all three dwarven clans fought over control of the city of Ironforge. The Dark Iron dwarves totally lost the civil war, like really, really bad. So bad that General Angerforge wrote a whole essay about how the Dark Iron's tactics were awful, much to the dismay of Emperor Dagran Tharzan, who was infuriated by Angerforge's criticisms. But the reality is, he wasn't really wrong. Look no further than to the Seven, who were responsible for dooming all of the Dark Iron clan. I mean, how could they not when they have names like Angerrel, Doomrel, Doperel, Gloomrel, Haterel, Seethrel, and Vilerel? Like, you're destined to be a bad guy with names like that. You see, during the War of the Three Hammers, the Dark Irons were getting stomped, and they were definitely about to lose. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and the powerful Dark Iron aristocrats and the leader of the clan, Sorcerer Thane Tharzan, wove a great spell to save his kingdom. But during the conjuration, his mind was filled with rage. Rage about losing the War of the Three Hammers and the death of his wife. It was in this miasma of anger that he accidentally summoned Ragnaros from the Firelands, created the Blackrock Mountain, and brought destruction across the land, and this all instantly killed the leader and the Seven Dwarves. After Ragnaros was summoned, he oppressed the remaining members of the Dark Iron clan, who have resided in the Blackrock Mountain ever since. Sorcerer Thane Tharzan's son, Emperor Dagran Tharzan, is responsible for picking up the pieces of the Dark Iron clan's legacy. But during Classic, he kidnapped Moira Bronzebeard, princess of the Bronzebeard clan, who was used as a hostage in preparation for a full-scale war. But during this time, Moira and the Emperor would get to know each other, eventually fall in love and have a baby. But then we, the player characters, show up and kill the Emperor. After killing her husband, Moira refused to leave the Blackrock Depths and instead became the clan's new leader. She would then play a role in the Fire Lord's banishment and lead the Dark Iron clan into a new era where they would eventually join the Alliance. And they've integrated, well, as best they could.
A night elf laughed at me for living inside a volcano. Well, at least I don't have to worry about my mountain burning down now, do I? What, too soon?
So this revamped version of the Blackrock Depths for the 20th anniversary of World of Warcraft not only serves as a reflection of Moira's thoughts on her clan's history, but also an opportunity to travel to the Molten past of Warcraft's most iconic dungeon, fight familiar bosses with a surprising amount of lore, and get some new loot in the process.